Guatemala, one of the most beautiful countries on earth, yet with a turbulent and at times violent history. Hard to believe from our tranquil lodgings here in Antigua, Guatemala, officially the third capital of the country, and really named Santiago de los Caballeros de Guatemala, St. James of the Knights of Guatemala. We find ourselves in a delightful colonial home, lovingly restored in the late 1960s. The grounds are truly amazing, complemented for us today by the beautiful weather. Antigua was established in 1543 and for its time was quite revolutionary, laid out in a square pattern of wide streets, a complete contrast to a typical Spanish town of that era. Diane and I decided to use the morning getting to know the city. We came across what turned out to be the ruined facade of the church and convent of the Society of Jesus. Further investigation proved this to be not just a facade, however. In the place where once stood Guatemala's finest college, now stands the Municipal Workshop School, training young Guatemalans the practical skills of engineering, woodwork, electrics and so on. Just next door to the school, we were indeed fortunate to discover, in the Centro Cultural de España en Guatemala, the Spanish Cultural Centre in Guatemala, an exhibition of photographs by the celebrated Spanish photographer Gervasio Sanchez. Entitled Vida, Life, it reveals how life overcomes and manifests itself in the midst of ruins of war and death, overcoming them. They often express a paradoxical, lacerating joy because they document life that refuses to be annihilated. Not my words, rather those of the curator. A few meters from the Posada we find El Arco de Santa Catalina, St. Catherine's Arch, which is really a bridge to allow the nuns to reach the church across the road from the convent. And the French clock is notable for displaying the old Latin number 4. Although the church itself failed to withstand several 18th century earthquakes, it has found a modern use for storage of the religious processional andas or floats. Today is the first occasion on which our tour group has assembled together. We don't yet know each other, and as you can see, my soon-to-be friends aren't at all impressed by the presence of a nerd with a video camera. Will things improve, I ask myself? Next stop, Central Park, overlooked rather ominously by the local active volcano Agua. Alongside the park stands the beautiful Iglesia de la Merced, dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary of Mercy. The Mercedarians were the first to establish a male monastery in Antigua. In 1749, architect Juan de Dios Estrada was commissioned to build a luxurious sanctuary and cloister, and he did so by designing a low building strengthened to withstand earthquakes.
The Mayans were not familiar with grapes. They were not familiar with wheat. You see a couple of kind of things hanging. If you go above the main entrance, okay, well, some scholars take this as corn. So here we see kind of a little fusion of the Maya beliefs into the Catholic Church in the architecture and art.
In the courtyard next to the Church of La Merced stands the Fuente de Pescados, or Fountain of the Fishes. said to be the largest classical fountain in the country, or in Central America, or even Latin America. Whatever, it's definitely in the shape of a water lily, which in Mayan culture is associated with creation. A legend has it that first God created a water lily from which all other gods emerged. When the capital was moved after the 1773 Santa Marta earthquake virtually destroyed Antigua, the Mercedarians were also obliged to move, leaving behind a usable and popular church, which the few remaining residents continue to use to this day. One of Antigua's most iconic yet mysterious ruins is that of the Convento de Capuchinas, the Capuchin convent. The last convent to be built in Antigua between 1731 and 1736, it opened its doors to poor women who wished to become nuns by not requiring an initial donation. There are virtually no historical records of convent life, perhaps because it housed a strictly closed order of nuns, though there were apparently many underground passages from the monks' cells. Some of the remaining areas can be clearly identified: a kitchen and a bathroom, though not his and hers, we assume. When we arrive at this circular array of cells, things become much less clear. Nobody really knows what this area was. It consists of an array of 18 identical cells around a common courtyard, with the living areas, now disappeared, up above. Each cell had a toilet and a small storage area. Originally thought to have been places of meditation, latest ideas suggest that it was an infirmary to which doctors from the outside world had access. Whatever the truth, adjacent stood a large kitchen and dining room, with an underground cistern to store water from the nearby mountains. And just to add further to the mystery, these niches, connected to the overhead aqueducts, could either have been showers or stations of the cross. Take your pick. Although damaged by the 1773 earthquake, thanks to its massive pillars, the main convent and courtyard survived, minus its roof, which was recently restored using a grant from the Chinese government. The Capuchin Church also barely survived the quake, only to be further damaged by another earthquake in 1976. Our next stop was to be the ruins of the old Cathedral of St. Joseph, but Mario was intent on showing us en route the public lavadero. Living in Spain, as I do, this was somewhat less than exciting. They're still in use back there. I guess that by now you've got the idea why the city was evacuated in the late 18th century. Ruin after ruin is all that remains. Just imagine the crash when that lot came down in the earthquake.
So these were the first Spanish ladies that are recorded in our history. They came here to give birth to children that were Spanish blood. And these were known as the criollos.
Criollo derives from the Spanish verb to raise and has been Europeanized into the word Creole, a person raised in the Americas from foreign, especially Spanish, lineage. They were quickly discriminated against by purebred Spaniards, Criollo becoming synonymous with illegitimacy. Unfortunately, we were unable to enter the present cathedral, but in the main square we were treated to a performance by the local town band. That evening, the musical theme continued with a marimba concert in our hotel. The marimba, which looks like a large xylophone, has special significance for the Mayans. Although representing about 40% of Guatemala's population, Mayans have endured centuries of violence, discrimination and death, and the marimba has become a symbol of defiant expression of their culture. Saturday today, we have bid farewell to the beautiful Antigua Guatemala, and we're en route towards Lake Atitlan.
Buenos dias. I hope everybody's doing okay, because I'm doing great. So we have a long but interesting drive today, and we're heading to we can say the highland area, where we're going to see more Indian population. Remember I mentioned that here we're at 5,000 feet from sea level, or 1,500 meters. Today we're going to be going as high as almost 9,200 feet. That's going to be the highest elevation that we're going to be reaching today, and then we go down. The lake level is about 5,200 feet, so it's just about 200 feet higher than Antigua. So we're going to be heading to the Pan American Highway. You already have been on that highway when you left Guatemala City. As we continue driving, we're going to see the volcanoes.
Just stopped for a toilet break really, and this is a rather pretty little stretch of mountain stream. There's about 8,000 feet here, and it's quite cool. The air's beautifully clear and fresh.
First test of the day, a rope bridge.
Steady girls.
Rope bridge safely recrossed, we drove on up to about 9,000 feet through several bustling Guatemalan towns.
Right below us to the right is the town of San Jorge La Laguna, St. George. And we're heading to San Francisco Panajachel.
Lake Atitlan is renowned as one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. Aldous Huxley wrote of it, Lake Como, it seems to me, touches on the limit of permissible picturesque. But Atitlan is Como with additional embellishments. It really is too much of a good thing. That's all very jolly, isn't it? And we're off on a boat trip. Handsome bunch, aren't we? It's clearly a skiing holiday, isn't it? Spending the kids' inheritance.
You can smile if you like.
Trying to look natural, it's not possible.
So we're now speeding our way across the lake to San Juan La Laguna. The two volcanoes are Atitlan and San Pedro. San Juan houses probably the most traditional community in Guatemala, cherishing and promoting the customs and legends of the local Tzuchutil Maya residents. And now for today's geography lesson. The lake is up to 1,120 feet deep and covers an area of over 50 square miles. It was formed about 84,000 years ago, filling the caldera formed by a great eruption. On arrival in San Juan, we boarded tuk-tuks to climb to our visit to the Casa Flor Cotton Weaving Cooperative. The cooperative exists not only to preserve traditional Mayan skills and artistry, but also to provide scholarships enabling local children to enjoy a better future.
This is they call it the house of Ishkaco. Ishkaco meaning, the color of the cotton,
Yeah.
and which is the brown cotton. It is the color of the skin of the women from this area. So that's the Ishkaco.
My name is Delfina, and here we are a cooperative of 20 families working together. All of us, we work with cotton and natural dyes. We are growing 3 different types of cotton. Grows in white, khaki, ishkaco. So these colors comes directly from the plant without dyes. The white, the white color. This khaki comes from the word kokof, which means cacao. These represent the color and energies of the cacao seed. This one is ishkaco, which represents the Mayan women. Ish comes from ishok, which means woman in our Mayan language, and kako is the brown color, which represents the color of our skin, and it represents the energies of the earth. The process, how we make the thread. First, we pick the cotton and clean by hand, taking the seeds out. And the seeds we use to grow more cotton. So after cleaning, we put together different pieces and we beat it like this. This process makes the cotton softer and joins the fibers. Then we warm it up and we start making the thread like this. Yes, we got a good length, we continue with this, which is the spindle. Sometimes the cotton breaks, so just we put back in and it keeps going. So to make a cotton ball takes 2 days working 8 hours per day. We use different plants to create every different color. You can see.
The original cotton colours are dyed using natural plant dyes.
The way how we do the colors is, for example, if it's a seed, we grind it to get a powder or a paste. And if it's flour, we need to chop it in small pieces. So then we put in cold water for 12 hours. We also need the bark of the banana plant, which works to fix the colors. The banana bark holds the color because it contains different acids and it contains rubber. So that is why it can hold the color very well into the cotton. So we chop the banana bark and soak it to extract the juice. Once are ready the juices, we push to boil together. And once it's boiling, we start to dip the white cotton. What is really important to change the shape of the ball into this, which is a skein. And this, we need to wash it with soap and water before to make the color, because the cotton fiber is oily, and when you try to dip in the water, it doesn't connect directly to the water. So the oil is really important when you do the thread, because it keeps together all the fibers. But once the thread ready, we need to remove it. So then we dip like this. So this is a combination of 2 different plants, which is the cinnamon plant, which makes a green, and also lobelia, which is this plant and makes a light blue, to get this turquoise. So it takes about 20 minutes boiling, and this is what we got. And once it's cold, we start to wash it again with soap and water to remove the excess of the color. And as you can see, we use many plants, and we need to remove the smell.
And once the thread has been prepared, the pattern of the garment is set up on this jig prior to being woven.
So this is called the backstrap weaving, because we need to tie it around our back to hold it and to create tension. So all these techniques are passed down through generations to make it sustainable, because everything that is bring is paid. So, but to make it sustainable, we need to make sure that everything we are weaving will be sold.
Yes.
So we need to know which product sells better, which color, which pattern, and that way we are making sure making sure all the sales.
Can you start selling at 15? Can you start
Yes.
making for the
Yes.
co-op
For example,
at 15?
the youngest is 14, member of the cooperative.
Wow. Yes.
So that is like a lot of people ask if we can have a life making all these process, because it's taking time.
Yes.
It takes time to make one thing, and they say it's really cheap to sell for this time of work. But we say we want to sell in a fair price.
Yes.
But also we can have a life making all these products, because we are selling it straight to the final customer. So
Yes.
there is not a middle person.
Good.
Because we, as weavers, we get 80% of the prices that you can see in the tags, and 20% gets the cooperative.
Good.
And
So
then
the
we're
money,
at
the money
34.
that's going into the cooperative buys the, if you haven't got necessarily the right seeds to do the product, you've always got some available, I presume,
So
for the colours, for the herbs,
Mhm.
things that you're using.
if we don't have enough, you
Yeah.
said, so we try to find enough. So that is why there is a season that when we do the dyeing.
Right.
So if we see that our color, that color is almost gone,
Mhm.
so we need to see a big amount of
Right.
dye. Yes.
And now another cooperative and another aspect of Mayan tradition, that of natural herbal medicines.
Buenas tardes.
Gracias por venir
Thank you for coming
a visitarnos aquí,
to visit us here
a conocer un poco las plantas
and to
medicinales.
learn about the medicinal plants.
Con esta planta que tenemos aquí,
With the plants that we have over here,
nosotras trabajamos con un
We work
grupo de mujeres.
with a group of women.
Ajá, sí. Dentro del grupo, ellas
In
elaboran
the group-
sus productos que tenemos ahí en la tienda.
We made the products that we have in our little shop.
Nosotras elaboramos lo que es diferentes clases de shampoo,
We elaborate different kinds of shampoo
diferentes clases de cremas.
and different kinds of creams.
Tenemos lo que es para mosquito,
We have for the mosquitoes,
diferentes clases de jabones,
different kinds of soaps.
de los tés,
Okay. Teas,
aceites esenciales,
essential oils,
otros productos más que
and other
tenemos
more
allí en la
products
tienda
that we have in our
a
shop.
base de las plantas
And
que
they're
tenemos
all
aquí.
made from the plants that we grow here.
Tenemos esta planta,
We have this plant.
no sé si conocen licorice.
This is licorice.
Licorice, licorice, esta planta hacemos un té
With this one, we make a tea
para problema respiratorio,
for respiratory problems,
asma, tos,
asthma,
bronquitis.
coughs, and
Ajá, sí, es
bronchitis.
para respiratorio, respirar.
So that's for the respiratory system.
Romero,
Romero,
Rosemary.
thank you. Rosemary, romero.
ajá, rosemary, hacemos un shampoo.
We make a shampoo
Un shampoo para evitar la pérdida del cabello.
which prevents the loss of hair.
Ajá,
Too late.
Too late also.
También,
Also,
también tenemos
Yes.
una crema,
We have a
una
cream.
crema para wrinkles.
wrinkles.
Too late
Una
también.
crema para wrinkles y también es muy bueno
And also-
en ti para memoria.
And it's also making the tea for the memory.
Es una planta
It's a plant.
melisa,
This
Melissa.
Melissa.
melisa lemon balm. Lemon balm.
Lemon balm.
Ajá. Lemon balm es bueno para dormir,
It's good for sleep.
insomnio,
For those that have insomnia,
estrés,
stress,
mala circulación.
and bad circulation.
Ajá. Árnica.
Árnica.
Sí, esta es la árnica. Árnica es muy bueno por artritis.
It's good for arthritis.
Artritis cuando tienen dolores de espalda.
When you have back
Sí,
aches.
es una pomada,
It's
es
a- it's
pomada
kind of a-
caliente.
Ointment, which is hot ointment.
También tenemos
We also have
una planta ruda,
plant we call ruda.
ruda o ru,
¿Cómo se llama?
ruda o ru,
O ru. Ruda.
ajá, sí, ruda o ru.
Smells very strong.
Ruda también es muy bueno para pánico,
It's good when you have
para
when you panic.
pánico, para miedo,
You're
tranquilizante.
afraid of something and to
Ajá, sí.
tranquilize you.
Ruda, hay una crema,
There's a cream
crema que te protege por malas energías,
that protects you from the
energías
bad
negativas.
negative energies.
Lemongrass es bueno para migraña,
It's good for migraines,
colesterol,
cholesterol.
también es muy bueno para dolor de cabeza.
Also, it's good for headaches.
Interesting though this was, you may just have detected a certain sceptical spluttering from our resident tour doctors Brian and Myrette. Although time didn't allow us a visit, we caught sight of yet another piece of Mayan history, chocolate. The Mayans worshipped the cacao tree, calling chocolate the food of the gods, which is probably why I like it. So, having purchased our share of weavings and all of the cures we are ever likely to need, we made our way back downhill to a local coffee roasting business. Not only did we enjoy a cup of freshly roasted Guatemalan coffee, but we had our first view of a small plantation. The beans are ripening now, ready to be roasted and packed for export. And it's time for us to be exported too, but only to Santiago Atitlan.
So we're now in Santiago Atitlan for another tuk-tuk ride, I think, to a restaurant.
Santiago Atitlan, or St. James at the Water, is a bustling town, once the Mayan Tzutzil capital of Chui Dynamite. In 1960, a competition was held to choose the face of the 25-cent coin. The winner was an 18-year-old Mayan girl from Santiago Atitlan, Concepcion, better known as Chonita, chosen by the artist as the perfect face to represent Guatemalan women. It may look peaceful today, but Santiago was the scene of considerable state-sponsored violence during the Civil War. Local American-born priest Stanley Rother was assassinated by a death squad here in his rectory in 1981. He had learned Spanish and Tzutzil, and in these buildings taught the Mayans Spanish and mathematics, and via his local radio station. He was beatified as a martyr in 2015.
This one is still used. They use it in Holy Week, Semana Santa, and they use it for a kind of a deity. Others call it gods, but this is something that has to do with the Indian culture. It has nothing to do with the Catholic Church. He's known as Mashimon. Mashimon, who is kept in this Indian cofradia that we're going to be visiting. And Mashimon, many of the people in this village no longer believe much in him. But they're outsiders that come here to request all kinds of favors from Mashimon. And so anyway, we're going to visit his cofradia so you can get an idea what he looks like. And it's just kind of a dummy dressed with probably the typical clothing of the village, with some handkerchiefs or scarves. And inside his cofradia, there's some sculptures or statues of Catholic saints. And there are many stories involved in how he started, or who he is. And the thing is that there were many problems in this village many years ago. That's what the story said, many years ago. And men were drinking too much. They were also following the girls in the village. And there was many problems that they needed to stop. So the elder men got together and they went to the forest. And they talked to the trees to see who wanted to volunteer to be something special to go to the village and stop all of these problems. So one of the trees accepted. So they made kind of a sculpture, took him to this town of Santiago. And then the idea was that whenever he could convert into a very nice, we can say sexy woman, and start walking on the streets, and the men will follow her. And when they were close enough, she will turn around and they will be seeing the head of a horse. And of course, they were very scared about seeing this. So this stopped many of these problems in the village. So this is one of the many stories. So in a way was to tell the young people, stay home at night. There's no business for you to be doing outside the street. So anyway, they continue with this cult of of the Mashimon. So there are men here who are known as cofrades, and there's one which is known as a telenel. The telenel is the one of the group that can talk to him, that also can carry him, and there'll be others that will come here to do some kind of ceremonies, but they know how to address with Mashimon. And you'll notice that he has probably two hats, one on top of the other one. So when a person is very, very sick and come here to ask to be healed, they place a chair in front of Mashimon, and they'll have this person sitting in front of him. And one of the hats will go on the head. And then there will be sent all kinds of prayers in order to cure this person. Mashimon likes smoking, drinking, or he likes alcohol, likes cigars, and he likes music. And he likes women.
Well, it is a strange world in which we live, isn't it? And how fascinating the public transport here. These massive old American school buses intermingling with dozens of tuk-tuks from one end of the spectrum to the other. Not to mention the fully health and safety compliant taxi. So as we make our way back down to the lake, we're struck by the highly skilled quality of the various items of woodwork and clothing that we see on sale. Quite beautiful, aren't they? Even the tuk-tuks don't escape the artistry.
You want a hat, sir? We really don't understand how there can be so many thousands of items for sale and frankly nobody buying anything.
Well, I think that's been one of the most pleasurable and interesting days of my life. How these people live contentedly without great wealth, without burden of electronics, highly skilled in what they do. Quite amazing. The life on shore might proceed at a leisurely pace, but the boat drivers certainly don't. We were swiftly transported to Santa Catarina Paloppo, the location of our next hotel.
That's rather pleasant, isn't it? Last seen.
How often have I heard an Englishman say that?
So it's Sunday morning. Another coach trip today. I think we're going to a local market.
Well, yes, Ross, you're quite right. We're going to the market at Chichi Castenango.
Oh, it's quite a place, this. So it's actually called the Hotel Santo Tomas, or nickname Santo Mash.
The delightful name Chichi Castenango derives from the local Quiche Mayan Tsitsi Castenango, or City of Nettles. Today the hotel occupies what was undoubtedly a major colonial building. The whole town seemed to have been taken over by the market.
So this is normally, as you can see, a basketball court. Twice a week, Thursdays and Sundays. No basketball, it's a market. Stop the tourist. as well myself.
You know, we probably should have eaten here. I bet it was delicious. This place has everything. I have never in my life seen so many candles. Even the steps up to the church of Santo Tomas become a flower market. Would anybody like to hazard a guess as to what these are? Answers on a postcard, please.
We're going to go inside this door. We'll try to stay on one side of the church. As we go in, we get to see these rectangular boards in between the benches. Each board has a particular meaning when you're praying. Like they say that the ones that are closer to the altar belongs to the creators. Then the others belongs to the first that created. And then the first generations and so on.
And even in the Episcopalian Church, the Mayan traditions persist.
Making traditional offerings here to this god.
I'm afraid that filming inside the church was forbidden, but at least we can see here the final resting place of the worshippers. I say final resting place, but that may not be true, because if your relatives stop paying the rent, they take you out again. And so on that cheerful note, we bid farewell and wended our way home to the hotel. We didn't actually get much sleep that night because in the early hours we were treated to a magnificent total eclipse of the moon. This clearly had great significance for the local Mayan population.
So it's Monday morning today, departure day from here to Flores, which is considerably hotter and lower than here. This is quite a wonderful place, isn't it?
In the background, people are panicking. The first one saying, "I'm off."
I'm off. Wait for me, help!
Exactly.
I think that's Dennis in front, actually.
Exactly. And you know what, and that's probably me with my arms up in the air saying, "Oh, I'm okay, no worries."
Well, we're not leaving quite that quickly. Just time to show you a few shots of the little village.
It's very bright and pretty, isn't it? We've had to take a diversion because there's a political demonstration on the road. So we're heading for the Pacific Highway instead of the Pan American. And this is probably going to be our very last view of the lake because we had to come basically over the mountain. At San Antonio, Palapo.
Just a bit of local history. This guy stood as a candidate for the governorship and was assassinated in 1966. And as we sped along, we passed through plantations of rubber trees and sugarcane. And a quick glimpse of a live volcano. That one is called Pacaya. So we're just approaching Guatemala City, from whence we fly to Flores. Well, first time we've ever been on one of these. It's a twin turboprop Franco-Italian aircraft, an ATR 72. And it certainly afforded us some beautiful evening views.
We've just arrived on, we're here in Flores. So it's Tuesday now, Villa Maya in Flores, 8 o'clock. We're off to see some Mayan ruins in the jungle. Just a quick shot of the pool area before we go.
And after a few minutes' drive, a quick stop to view some local bird life.
That's, you can see the bird down there, that side. That's the beautiful rhino. Oh, yeah. That one there, you see it?
Now I can't be sure, but I think this is an osprey or a fish eagle. And that is definitely the ubiquitous grackle. Today's objective is a visit to Tikal, the largest known explored Mayan city. On arrival at the national park, because the site is still mainly covered in jungle, we spent time studying a large model.
This one is known as Lost World Plaza or Astronomical Plaza. As you see, this one is flat on top. Here, March 21st, the sun is going to be rising up right behind of this little temple. After March, the sun is going to move slowly, it's going to go slowly to the north, and 3 months later, we see on June 21st, the sun rising up behind of that one. The sun starts to move back again, and 3 months later, you see the second sun alignment here, September 3. And it's going to continue moving, and the last one will be the sun rising up December 1st.
So this central area has been cleared of jungle, and hopefully we will be able to scale some of the pyramids. Apparently, among other things, the Maya used to chew gum, or chicle as it's known in Spanish, for reasons which are not entirely clear. Nothing new there then. Maybe it made their breath smell better, or maybe it kept them from feeling hungry. Anyway, they harvested the sap from the chico sapote tree and boiled it down until it became gummy. And then they chewed it. Originally, Wrigley's gum was made from this natural product, but overexploitation almost wiped out the trees, and now chewing gum is a synthetic product made from petrochemicals. It's basically rubber. So school over, we set off to explore the park.
We have been protecting the area. That's why we have a lot of jaguars, pumas, ocelots, deers, monkeys.
Can you tell? Howler monkeys.
That one. This is Coatimundi. Coatimundi. Or the one is relative to raccoon. For cheese,
Whatever he's got in there is really.
Yeah, he got something. We have something. The Coatimundi here. Come. There.
Yeah, scratching like a dog.
Yes.
In America though, aren't the raccoons like the trash can in America?
Yeah.
Because they steal out of trash cans, don't they?
Yeah.
Right.
All the way around the Glasgow, they were everywhere. Taking everything, if somebody dropped something, gone.
Yes, the big bird is moving now.
Oh, yes, I see.
That's the bird throat, tiger heron. And right above that one on the branch, we have the yellow crown night heron. You want binoculars? You can see what it is.
And there on the bank, keeping a watchful eye on proceedings, a crocodile. Sacred to the Maya, but now endangered through overhunting. The limpkin has a strange, loud wail, whose call was used for the hippogriff in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. As we enter the park, we see possibly the most famous tree in Guatemala, the so-called Tree of Life. In fact, the Ceiba pentandra, Guatemala's national tree. It was sacred to the Maya, perhaps because each year it yields a large crop of Maya nuts, highly nutritious fruit, which played an important role in the Mayan diet. Although having no historical significance, the locals say that you can see a face here with 2 eyes and a mouth.
Oh, coming. Oh,
Oh, isn't he?
Oh, you
Oh
look
my
the
God.
feathers. Look at
Pretty.
Endemic only to parts of Mexico and northern Guatemala, this bird also is on the threatened species list.
Oh, it's posing for you.
So we've arrived at our first complex, Palacio de las Acanaladoras.
Something like the Palace of the Pseudo Columns, referring to the vertical channels carved in the walls of the building. The palace is very extensive, providing accommodation for around 100 people, probably of the professional classes. It has 29 vaulted chambers and the remains of an upper story.
So this is the interior of the bedroom, room for several people to sleep
Be careful
on this
with the
large
steps
platform.
with the sleeper.
Archaeologists claim that the extensive use of these corbel vaulted openings show that the Palacio was the work of a master builder.
So apparently this complex is about 1300 years old.
And there is evidence that only a small proportion of this massive settlement has been excavated so far. At this point, our guide wanted to introduce us to some Mayan medicine.
Pimienta negra, black pepper, allspice in English. Allspice. Smell like clove,
Yeah.
like cinnamon, like citronella. Yeah?
You've actually got a little flavour in it.
But if you get sick, you get bad digestion,
Yeah.
diarrhea, stomach ache, you can make a tea, 4 leaves, 5 leaves, and after 3 or 4 hours start to feel better.
Oh, wow.
But there is something else. There is something else. Back in the Mayan time, look this little insect coming to me.
Yeah.
For the Maya people, he is like the spirit of probably an ancestor of me. They put jade. It just was painful. Was painful. So if you chew this one here, this piece of leaf, one in one, a small piece, you will feel, you will get numb. Your mouth, your tongue. This one is the Maya anesthesia or the local anesthetic. You get 95% of lidocaine. Yeah, so Novocaine, yeah? The one right here. If you want, just take a piece of this and this. And you feel getting numb, your tongue, your mouth right here.
When one comes across magnificent ancient monuments such as these, the question always arises as to who or how or why such enterprises were undertaken. This is not the place for a detailed study of anthropology, but briefly, one wonders how the Maya got here. And why did they construct these edifices? The North and South American continents stretch from the Arctic almost to the Antarctic, pretty well halfway round the Earth, and on each side of this massive tongue of land lies great oceans. The only land bridge now lies in the frozen wastes of the Arctic. How all of the various indigenous tribes arrived in these lands is subject to debate, but probably along the coasts, north to south. But not everybody built monuments. North America, I believe, is pretty well devoid. Red Indians, as we used to call them, built nothing bigger than teepees. But South America is different. The Aztecs, the Mayan, and other tribes built inconceivable structures, perhaps for religious purposes, perhaps to demonstrate power. How do these different societies evolve, and why? As it happens, the first building we reach is called the Teotihuacan Embassy, probably dating back to the 3rd century AD, and proving that diplomatic links existed between distant tribes. Teotihuacan was a large metropolis near to today's Mexico City, and it's quite possible that Tikal was at one time conquered by these northern people. These circular goggle-like carvings represent the owl, an important animal in Mayan mythology. And there's another Coati Mundi keeping an eye on us. Apparently they're not exactly tame, but they're not afraid of humans. So we've now reached the heart of Tikal, the Gran Plata. And just above the Grand Jaguar Temple stands the central Acropolis. Developed over several centuries, this massive structure served originally as a royal residence and administrative centre. It has 5 stories, 43 structures and apparently 250 bedrooms, not including perches.
The eastern kingbird.
And if you look closely, you'll see that this bird has different markings on the head. This is the tropical kingbird. According to our guide, the term king size and queen size bed was invented by the Maya for use by kings and queens. The beds are very much larger in these bedrooms than in the normal ones, and they're just alongside the bedside table. And if you were lucky enough to be royalty, this was the view from your bedroom window. Well, not a window, of course. And to the rear of the palace, we get an idea of how much of this complex is still covered by jungle. That's the second highest temple in the complex, and its base has still not yet been excavated. That's a side view of the Gran Jaguar Temple, and across the Plata, Temple 2, which remains nameless. And there in the distance, the real dead centre of the city, the cemetery. Our guide tells us that the Jaguar Temple was built around 700 AD by a ruler called Lord Chocolate. Yes, Lord Chocolate. However, his real names were Jasor Chan Kawil or A Cacao, hence the name Chocolate. The temple is also his tomb, and like all good rulers, he built another for his wife. And just to prove his versatility, our guide spotted this rare orange-breasted falcon, a bird which is almost extinct. And there's a poster, basically asking people not to shoot them.
So here in front of Temple 2, which was built to commemorate the king's wife, is what they call a stela, which is a Greek word. What they did, they carved the image of the king on the front of the stela, and they wrote his story on the back. But unfortunately it was in limestone, and in most cases it's all been eroded by the weather.
On this stela, more clearly visible, is an effigy of a ruler called Curlhead, for obvious reasons.
So there we are, that's the sign for the loo, and we've just discovered that we are Ajwinikus. And I have to say, if this is what an Ajwiniku is, I'm very happy to be one.
This bird, I have to say, I spotted all by myself. It's a brown jay. Quite unusual, isn't it? And rather pretty. And this is just a brief shot to show you what the site was like right up until the 1950s, almost totally covered by jungle. And now, of course, there's a row between the conservationists who want to keep the jungle and the archaeologists who want to clear it. And this is the photo album shot of our group. You can tell it's rather hot, can't you?
Smile please, you're on candid camera. Come on Brian, do your best. Not very well.
We're actually heading for the Lost World bladder, or the astronomical bladder, the one that told the Maya when to plant their crops.
Actually, we are located in the oldest plaza of Tikal. The name of this plaza is the Lost World Plaza. Also is known as Astronomical Plaza. So the main structure right here is the pyramid behind me. The one is there. So this side of the pyramid is still covered. The other side, it was discovered back in the 80s by the archaeologists. And to the east, we have that platform, and the Mayans built on the platform the 3 different temples to see the sun, when the sunrise, the alignment, in between the pyramid and the ones there. By example, if you stay up there, I told you in the model this morning, you will see a march for sunrise. The sun is rising up right behind on the one in the center there.
And as the earth tilts, you will see the sunrise behind the other temples in June, September and of course December. Well, it's a pity that the trees destroyed our view of the astronomical plaza, but now we have climbed the large temple, and this is the magnificent view that we get of the large temples of Tikal. I can tell you it was quite a climb, and this is what you look like after you've done it.
Right. How was the view up there?
Terrible. No, it's very good. How many steps?
150, 57, 50 something.
Seemed like more than that, didn't it?
My word, you have to be sharp-eyed here. This is a chestnut-coloured woodpecker.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Go,
Where
move.
is he? Oh, yeah.
We want to continue. Move.
Hola, monkey.
Brilliant.
Not in any hurry, is he?
No.
He's
He got lunch already. No, we will go to
waiting for us to go underneath him.
That's right.
All right.
I'll get them when they go.
It's a brown wood creeper.
Red throat and tanager.
And this is a lot easier to film than the birds, isn't it?
That's no way to travel, is it? Anybody falls, this goes straight on YouTube.
Did you catch me on YouTube then? Bugger.
No, actually, I don't think I did. I think
Yeah.
there's a spider monkey in
I
the
know,
tree.
Up in here. Young one.
I don't know its age. It didn't say.
My knees are tired.
Ooh, grief.
Another of the local bird species, Montezuma oro pendula, quite common in these parts. Apparently these birds spend their life largely in the canopy and are very reluctant to fly very far. And so with one final glimpse of a rather angry spider monkey, time for us to head off from a wonderful day in Tikal. Our journey back took us through agricultural lands, small villages, and finally the beautiful entrance to our hotel.
So we've arrived back at the hotel after our Mayan adventure. This is the lake on which the hotel stands. Rather pretty, isn't it?
And close by, a colony of scarlet macaws. The hotel has its own private game reserve.
This is the male white-tailed deer.
Pretty little things, aren't they? And they don't seem to be at all bothered by the howler monkeys. And what a beautiful way to end a fascinating day. And this beautiful view of the lake greets us today, Wednesday. More Maya ruins today. And we've just noticed there's a bit of a standoff here. There's a heron trying to find its breakfast, and there's a crocodile trying to find its breakfast, which should be the heron. And for those of you who like to know these things, that's a little blue heron. Well, as you can see, we've left the hotel and we've just stopped to reserve our lunch in a local restaurant. It's quite amazing, isn't it, what we come across on the side of the road? And that is a laughing falcon. Honestly, I'm not joking.
We've left the tarmac half an hour on a road like this.
But we made it safely to the Parque Nacional Yaxar Nacum Naranjo.
That's Daniela in front of his bus there.
Plain chachalaca. That's because they are also noisy birds. Very early in the morning you can hear this noise, chacalac, chacalac.
So here we are, Yaxha, or green water, agua verde.
This is the third largest of the known Mayan settlements.
Yaxha.
So like yesterday, we come across an astronomical plaza. Though unfortunately, also like yesterday, the measuring temples are still covered by jungle. So, sorry, not a lot to be seen there.
Only the half of this, of one here, this was a big stela. We know because here we have only part of the body. This is the hip. Look, we have one knee, knee. He is like in this position, yeah. You see the one foot fit right here. So we have the hip, part of the belly and the chest, and the rest of the stela is gone. So right here we have a number, yeah. We have the bar. Remember, I was telling you yesterday. Bar represents 5 or means 5 fingers, and each dot means 1. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the day 9, and we have a cleave. This is a month of the calendar of this month. Something happened with this guy, like saying January 1st or January 9, yeah, something happened. And this temple here in front of us is the highest one, and the most important one. It's known as 216 temple. Also, it's known as red hands, because underneath they got a substructure and they discovered an important chamber. They got a very important burial there. So inside of this chamber they got some hands. They paint the hands with red color. That's why it's called Temple of Red Hands.
Well, I don't know about the Temple of the Red Hands, but by the time we'd all climbed to the top, it was more like the Temple of the Red Faces.
Well, here we are. The best view in town, and my word, it certainly is.
Zip wiring indeed. It must be the altitude.
This is the lake where we have many crocodiles.
You can take it from me that health and safety hasn't reached here. This is a sheer drop over the edge and only about a metre to walk on.
As of today, only 12% of this settlement has been excavated, which means 88% of course is still hidden by the jungle. There is some debate about the Mayan diet, and for many years the bread nut was thought to be very important. The nuts are indeed high in nutrients and protein, but maybe they were only really an emergency food for times of famine.
People, they used to eat what we get inside. So what we have to do, we have to get this thing, we have to boil it for about 15 minutes, and then we can eat it. This is what we eat, the one inside. You can eat it on a salad. It's like a palmito. You know the palmito?
Yes.
The heart of a palm tree, but you eat it, but then we eat also this one, but now it's not edible. If you eat it now, you will get allergy on your mouth, your tongue. You have to boil it first, and then it's ready to eat. You put lemon, salt, and it's good to eat. Or you can chop it, and you can mix with eggs. You can do scrambled eggs with papaya.
Well, there's a couple of spider monkeys keeping an eye on us, and if they don't like us, they'll try and climb overhead and defecate to move us away.
So the North Acropolis, the oldest settlement, and it's triangulated. It's built as a triangle, which is part of the constellation of Orion.
So here are the three temples, that one in the middle being the main one, and over there the royal palace.
That's Martin heading up the original Mayan entrance, and I'm going to try and join him in a minute. Look at that, that is impressive.
I ought to point out that going up is tiring, but coming down is dangerous, because if you miss your footing, you're at the bottom, on your bottom.
It's amazing, it's absolutely still. There's not a breath of air. No people. One bird. Otherwise, absolute silence.
Yesterday I posed the question as to why some societies build massive structures and some don't, and I think I've discovered the answer. It's geography. You have to be a stable, static society to build these, rather than be a plainsman wandering continuously to find food. As with all Mayan settlements, the stories were recorded on stelae, of which there was no shortage here.
And look, this one here,
That's the bird, isn't it?
it's a bird, It's talking about a parrot or macaw. And there is a small person, look, there is a small person doing or fixing something on the knee of the ruler. So here's his face, his nose, eye, his mouth, the ear, one arm, his belly, his leg. And you see people coming to work, they have on the hip the machete. If they comes to some, to the church as well, they bring the machete. If they go to the school for some meetings, they go with the machete. Everywhere they go, they bring the machete.
And presumably, just like today, when they went to support their local team at the ball court, they took their machetes. Actually, it was a little more serious than that, because some, if not all, of the losing teams were sacrificed after the game.
We got one team here of 3-4 people. The other team was there. This is like a volleyball, you know. They have to have a net. We had a ball from there.
There's a ring on the wall. We had to get the ball through the ring.
And just to give you an idea, this is a film of a ceremonial game, and you can see they're not allowed to use their hands or feet, in this case only their hips. And in this version, each team takes turns to knock the ball through the ring on the side of the court. And just like in Rome, the kings and queens sat above the court and pronounced their verdict. And so, with one last view of a howler monkey, we set off to spend a couple of hours sightseeing in Flores. Flores occupies an island on Lake Petén Itzá, linked to the mainland only by a causeway. Flores' rather dubious claim to fame is that it was the last independent Maya state to be conquered by the Spanish. In 1697, the invaders attacked and destroyed the island, leaving many Itzá people to spend years hiding in the jungle.
I'm not sure this is relevant, but there is a significant influence of people here from Belize. And they brought with them their own architectural styles. There's one or two other incomers as well. I don't think these are from Belize, mind you. It's a bit different, isn't it? Capitan Tortuga. Pizzeria,
I've never actually been to Belize, but this architecture is certainly different from the rest of Guatemala.
Colourful.
Apparently the island was recently hit by a storm which flooded and partially destroyed the main coast road. It didn't take long, however, for the local wildlife to take advantage. The small cathedral church of Nuestra Señora de los Remedios y San Pablo Itzá was only built in 1951. It's a fairly simple design, as you can see, but here services combine elements of Christian and Mayan religions. Well, yes, I rather like Petén as well, but sadly, time to leave for the airport. First stop, Guatemala City. One night only in the Barceló Hotel in Guatemala City before we were off to the airport en route for Costa Rica. And what a nice touch to leave the departing tourists with the traditional sound of the marimba.